Good morning. Hi, I'm Ian Fales. We are here at THU TV again. It's been another great day at Trojan Horse. Before we get started, I wanted to talk to you about THU TV. Make sure you check out the website. It's trojan-unicorn.com/TV. And what you can do there is watch what we're up to, but also subscribe to the special shows that are going to be available during and after this conference, this amazing event. So today we're going to be talking more about visual effects and animation. We've got people from recruitment side of visual effects. We've got people who work with animators. So many people, and then 2 more days of this as well. But this morning I'm joined by Jamy Zink from Luma Pictures.
Hello.
Hi Jamy, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good. Jamy lives in Melbourne.
Do?
I'm from Sydney, but we do see each other a fair bit actually, don't we?
Yeah, a few times a year actually now.
It's your first time at Trojan Horse.
It is. We were lucky enough to be invited by Andre this year, and it's just blown my mind. Like, absolutely amazing. We've had so much fun so far.
Yeah,
So.
I'm curious about that because it's my 3rd year, and as a newbie when I came, you don't know what it is.
Right.
You hear that it's really cool.
Yep.
Andre doesn't want to pin it down as a design event, a concept art thing, a visual effects thing. What were your first impressions maybe from those first 2 days of recruitment that you did?
Well, before we came here, we had a lot of correspondence with Andre and his team, and we thought, this is a really friendly bunch of people, obviously very inspired by what they do, and so we were really looking forward to it. And because we had heard that it had been sold out, we thought, okay, this is probably pretty popular, and we know that it's gone up to 900 people this year, so we travelled to 27 hours from Melbourne, really not knowing what to expect.
Tell me about it.
2 flights, car ride, a ferry ride. And then when we got here, instantly we were just kind of really surprised by how many people were here, number one. And then set in such a really beautiful place.
Because it's 900 people actually, which
Yeah,
is more than
900.
it's been before, which is really cool. Yeah.
I think, they said they started off with about 100 people in the first year, and then it's grown to 600, and this is their biggest year yet. So I think we've been really fortunate enough to come during a time where it's just really, has been booming, and they've got everything sort of really set out well. And then, when our recruitment day started, it just went off without a hitch. So we've just been really, really surprised by how much talent there is, just how amazing everybody has been with helping us out, and it's just been an amazing experience so far. So,
what was that opening ceremony session like? Because that starts at 10 p.m, right?
Right,
Which is
yeah.
pretty late, but it's full on.
Yeah, so coupled with the jet lag, I'm trying to be in bed by 7:30 at night. But I was working, and Michaela, who's with me from Luma, she went, and so I started watching it on Instagram Live.
Yeah.
And it's just so inspiring to see how many people get excited, and that there is this opportunity here in Europe to be able to have this conference where you can meet like-minded people, be inspired by all these amazing creatives and professionals in the industry. And I don't know if there's anything quite like it. Certainly not in Australia, at least. We haven't been exposed to it. So it's been really eye-opening, because I feel I'm a huge believer in giving back to the next generation, and just to see how many people get inspired, all the chanting and the clapping. I felt like I could feel it from my hotel room.
Yeah.
So, but it's just really amazing.
Yeah. Oh, great. So you're VP and head of culture at Luma.
Yeah.
I think most people think of recruitment as an HR thing, or that's even the name that some people in those positions get. What does it mean to be head of culture though at a visual effects studio?
Yeah, the HR component, it's necessary, and obviously that is essentially part of what our department is like, but we're a very anti-corporate organisation, so the word HR is kind of like a dirty word, and which is why I think our department is called the culture team, and I think it's important for us as a company to be able to convey that, yes, we do deal with contracts, we do deal with reviews, and recruiting and all of that kind of stuff, but it's really essentially about who we are as a company and how we can let people know about what we do and how we do it. I think it's important for us to ensure that it's not a rigid corporate process. It's very much just about at the core of who we are and who we want to work with. And yeah, I think that's just kind of why we title it that way.
Yes, I can vouch for it being a very non-corporate place.
Yeah.
Having been invited to one of your events last year in Fiji, which was really cool, and
Yeah.
just obviously covering the studio's work over the years. But for those people who don't know much about Luma, tell me about when Luma started and the kinds of projects that you've been working on most recently.
Yeah, so the studio started in Los Angeles initially 15 years ago, and they've moved from Venice to Santa Monica and have always been, a smaller visual effects studio comparative to, all the other ones that have been in LA and internationally. And then 5 years ago, our CEO, Payam Shardi, decided to come down to Australia and see if there was the opportunity to open up, and he opened up in Melbourne, which we were really fortunate about. So since then, Melbourne has been in operation for the last 5 years. Primarily, we do a lot of work for Marvel, the Marvel Studios. So we've done, our most recent ones have been like Doctor Strange, Alien, which is not a Marvel film, but we finished Alien
amazing stuff.
In January. Yeah. We did Spider-Man, which just recently showed. We do other projects that, kind of fit what we do well, which is a lot of cool visual effects work. And it's kind of what we do.
So you've been recruiting for 2 days here. What have people been asking you about in terms of how do I get a job in visual effects? And what have you been saying about Luma that you might think is different to another visual effects studio?
Yeah, I think that obviously people want to know, whether their work is good enough. And for me, I struggle to even draw a stick figure. So when I see
same here, Jamy.
So when I see people's work, it's actually really inspiring for me on a personal level because I can't do much of what they do. But it's also really humbling for us, I think, that there are artists out there who want to make Luma their home and a potential, kind of place for them to work. So we've been trying to give them a lot of feedback about what we're looking for in terms of, the work that they do. And then also a huge part of how we recruit is also about how much you fit into our culture. So it's a really important thing for us that it's not just about the work or the talent. We look for people who are nice people. So that's one of the first things that we, try and kind of figure out in an interview. And then B, people who are ambitious. So, we take a lot of time to recruit people to come to Luma. And one of the core things that we look for is their trajectory and ambition. We're a small team in Melbourne. We have about 65 people. We have about 100 people in LA. So, everybody knows everyone. You get to work and collaborate with each other. So we want to find like-minded people that are nice, ambitious, and talented. And those are the three things that we look for. So one of our core things that we always tell people when we do interview is about them vetting whether we're the right studio for them also.
Yeah, right. So the other way around. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm a huge believer that they should be interviewing us as much as we're interviewing them. They should be figuring out whether, we have the right structure for them, the right, kind of senior to junior ratio, our supervising structure, whether the work is something that they find inspiring, whether they want to move down to Melbourne, or to LA. Yeah. So I understand that there's a lot of pressure for people to come out of schools or, out of their first one or two gigs and want to try and find a place in a studio. But, you got to figure out, whether it's right for you. It's like dating, right? You can't just, hope that it works one way and then, it will all work out. You're not compatible.
Maybe there should be, Tinder for visual effects.
That's what I always say.
You're going to do it, aren't you?
Maybe. That might be my side project, whether you swipe left or right for a studio. That's something that I think...
Luma LA? Yeah. Luma Santa Monica? Luma Melbourne. Right,
yeah. Do you prefer good coffee or crappy coffee? That kind of thing. So, I think it's really important. I love when people sort of grill us about our studio during an interview. When we ask them, do you have any questions? And they say, what's your culture like? What are your hours like? what is the training going to be like? What are your expectations of me? And I think when people ask that, they have a really good sense of what they're walking into, and you can only be better prepared. So, yeah.
Maybe one of the big differences, apart from that push on culture at Luma, is you're not the biggest visual effects studio, and you're not trying to be. What does that mean in terms of the kinds of roles that are there? Because one thing I know in particular is that the lighting and comp is combined, for example.
Yeah. So we affectionately call them lompers, which is not a great name, but we really value people who are kind of multi-skilled and multifaceted. Right. So it allows them to be able to kind of flex their muscles in all different areas as long as it interests them. It means that they're able to work on a shot for a longer period of time in the pipeline. It means that they probably don't get bored either because they're getting pulled into like different directions. It's really important for us that our artists are nimble, to be able to kind of take a shot or take a sequence with the rest of the team to be able to do as much as they can, because we're a company that runs that way. We do have like 165 people, and a lot of our success has been about how quick and how nimble and how quickly we can kind of get to a situation and look at it and kind of reevaluate what we're doing and act accordingly. And I think that's what's been really important for us to find in our artists as well.
Yeah.
So.
We were talking just before we started today about, you've been around for 15 years, Luma has, but in some ways the makeup of the studio is quite young. Your visual effects supervisors in a visual effects industry way are young, and you really trust them because they do good work. But that could be a different sort of feeling in a visual effects studio than a bigger one, right?
Yeah,
where they've been around
so.
for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're relatively young compared to a lot of other big studios that have been out there. And when you look at the makeup of our supervisors, they're all relatively young.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to have a look at them and know that they've probably spent a third or a quarter of their life at Luma. So they've kind of grown with the company as well.
Don't tell them that.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a scary feeling for them when they look back and they're 35 and they've been there since they were like 22 or something. So I think it's something that I really value about the company, that we promote on merit and not on tenure. It doesn't matter, whether you've been at the studio for a couple of years or whether you've been there for 5 to 10 years. If you're doing a good job, we always try and create opportunities for those that we value and who have worked hard and who are ambitious for different positions. So, someone like Brendan, who's our VFX supervisor in Melbourne, he's been with us for 5 years, and he's been our supervisor for probably 2 years now. Previous to that, he was working in an ad agency in Perth, in Western Australia, and hadn't been really exposed to anything. So when you look at that, I think it's also inspiring for the artists, because they look at someone like Brendan or our CG supervisor, Andrew, and they can say, oh, yeah, like, if you work hard and if you're talented, then you can get to those positions. And then you can also look at someone like Raf, who's our animation supervisor, who's been at the company for more than 10 years, and he's just put all his time and energy into growing his animation department to what it is today. And it's just an amazing feat that he's done, and that's inspiring also, that he's made it his home and he's been able to do that for the last decade. So yeah, I think it brings a certain type of energy too when your supervisors are of that caliber, and I think it's just inspiring more than anything.
Yeah. Another thing we were talking about, which I find really interesting, is over the 15-year history of Luma, when you first start, everyone's a bit younger. They're kind of happy to work really long hours. That's what a lot of young visual effects artists do. They don't necessarily have families or kids or anything like that. But clearly that changes.
Yeah.
And have you noticed that change yourself, and have you had to adapt to it in terms of how things are run culture-wise?
Yeah, I think it takes me a little bit more time to recover from a big night out, that's for sure. Whereas the younger artists are like bright and sparkly, like, first thing in the morning, where I'm a little groggy. So that's been interesting. But for example, we didn't have a Luma Melbourne baby for the last sort of 4 years.
Oh, right.
So no one in Melbourne kind of had kids, from our core team anyway. And we had viewed from Melbourne the LA studio kind of grow into this much more family orientated studio. So a lot of people were having kids, a lot of their kids were starting to go to school, and people getting married and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's been really interesting because Brendan just recently had a baby, little girl called Elliot, really cute, and she's kind of become our mascot baby. You know, every time she comes in, everyone's like super excited. But I think what's been really important for us is that as we've grown as a studio and we've matured, we've had to kind of change our culture a little bit to kind of make sure that all those people felt still included. You know, you can't have those crazy wild nights or ask people to do all those hours when, you've got a baby at home. So I think it's been very eye-opening for us to make sure that, our culture consistently evolves as our team evolves, and that's really important for us to keep an eye on and make sure that we're kind of addressing as we go.
Okay, let's talk about someone who wants to work at Luma.
Yeah.
And say you're not at an event recruiting. What should they do?
Get online. Get online, because I think we have a really great system whereby we track applicants and we can review their reels. Our supervisors review their reels or, their CVs. We really appreciate a cover letter as well. And that's purely because we want to find out a little bit more about you. Mm-hmm. So, you can put a few lines about the software that you know and, the experience that you've had and the reel, but we also want to know, what interests you, why you're applying at Luma, the kind of stuff that inspires you. And those sorts of things I think we initially find out from a cover letter also, and then the interview. So we have various positions at, all times of the year, and I think that it's good for people to continue to come back to the website and find out if there are positions that interest them and projects that interest them, So, get in contact with us via social media, like email. We're always really happy to kind of respond back when we can. And, we like to track applicants, and if they're not right for a particular project, we have a really good system of being able to note for other projects that, we may have coming up, and then that's when we reach out to other people as well. Yeah,
that's really important, I think, that you track them. I mean, it's a confidence builder in the person applying too, that they're not going to be forgotten about.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we have these different options in our application stages where we can alert, the recruiting team or our supervisors for a forward committed date. So if we know that we're possibly bidding on a project that will need X amount of, say, FX artists, but we don't really currently need them right now, we'll just snooze that application, and then, say, in a month's time, it'll reappear in our inbox, and then that's when we kind of reach out and make sure that there's something to offer then and there.
Right. I reckon one thing applicants don't always realise is that recruiters and visual effects supervisors and department heads watch scores of reels.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to watch a reel, but actually you might need to watch 40 in one day if you're on a bit of a recruitment drive.
Yeah.
So, given that, you're going to have to wade through so many, what are your main tips for making a really, really cool, compelling reel?
Yeah, well, I'll give you an example of the numbers that one of our CG supervisors did in LA. I think his stats were 840 plus reels or applicants that he reviewed in a 6-month period.
Right, there you go.
That's time.
Amazing.
So, well, first and foremost, our supervisors watch reels with the sound turned off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
don't worry about music.
Don't worry about the music. Don't stress too much about whether it's, on the right beat or, something that you think that our supervisors will like. Because they've got varied tastes. So you may find one that loves it and one that doesn't.
Don't put the Titanic music on there.
No. I mean, unless you love it. They don't. They watch it with the sound turned off. So that's one. Don't stress too much about the music. B, try and make sure that you put the breakdown, so what you've done, what you've been responsible for, because the last thing you want is to get called up for an interview for a portion of the sequence that you didn't do, and then have our supervisors waste your time and vice versa. So that's the second tip I can give you. And then third if you've got a password protected reel, make sure you provide the password. That's
Sounds obvious, doesn't it?
Yeah,
But,
and I'm sure when you're applying, there's like a ton of things that are going through your head, and it's easy to forget, but nothing's more frustrating when your CV looks good and then the supervisor's got to click on your reel and it's like no password, and then there's a delay in us reaching out to that applicant, and by then they've probably gone through another 50 reels and could have potentially found someone that they've already interviewed.
On that note, you're basically saying, of course, reels should be online.
Yes.
Is Vimeo really just a great solution? Basically, do it Vimeo, or does it not matter?
Vimeo is good. We've had people put their reels on YouTube, which is always good. I think Vimeo and YouTube are probably the best ways to send it to us.
Just make it accessible, basically.
Yeah, or their own website. And then if you've got your own website, then it allows us to kind of poke around and see what other stuff you've done. So, and then your contact details, obviously. That's always nice.
Yeah.
But I think also one of the biggest tips our supervisors like to give out is just put your best stuff forward. Don't worry about giving us the whole slate of stuff that you've done for the last 12 months. They'd much rather see sort of 15 to 30 seconds of something really, really good that keeps them wanting more, rather than 2.5 minutes where now you've talked yourself out of a job. So just the best stuff. And
Okay. Now, if they get a call from you guys or an email, I reckon one thing people don't know what to do in terms of etiquette is how to communicate with the recruiter, because there might be 10 emails to and fro, or there might be phone calls. People can be nervous about that, and they can quickly show their real sides as well. So what are your sort of tips there?
I think be genuine.
Yeah.
So, if you are a person that uses a lot of exclamation marks because you're excited, do that. That gives us a real good sense of who you are. Michaela's really good about contacting people and asking, for a few time slots that work for an interview.
Yep.
One of the things I think people should remember also too is like where the location is that they're interviewing for. So whether it's LA and Melbourne, because sometimes, there's the proverbial thing where people forget that they're in London or they're in, Paris, and then they just think that everybody's on the same time zone.
Oh, yeah,
so,
of course.
if Michaela says, can you give us a couple of times that work for you, then give us more than one. I think that's important. And then also, if they've got any questions, like that's a really good forum to speak to Michaela about. So, some people like to ask like whether they need to bring anything, or what types of questions will be asked. And I think that's just shows how prepared you want to be for that interview, and that's always a really good sense for us to know.
At an interview, will it be you guys, the recruitment team, but also like the CG Soup and the VFX Soup?
No, we actually do it the other way around.
Oh.
So we do the supervisors first.
Right.
And then they get a sense of the work that you've done and, just the scope of work that you've done in the past, and, what your skill set is and what kind of software you use. And they'll ask questions like, how long did it take you? Like, can you explain a little bit about the
They'll
breakdown?
grill you.
Yeah, but in a really nice way, I
Right.
think. Yeah. And then, if that goes well, and then our supervisors come back and kind of talk to each other about what the needs are for the projects, and if they feel like there is someone that they want to put forward to the next stage, then that's when they meet with us in the recruiting team.
Now, what about the mix between choosing Santa Monica or Melbourne? If your heart's set on coming to Luma, how much can you help an applicant who lives somewhere else come to Australia?
It really depends on the visa situation.
Yeah.
So obviously we take care of all of that if we're wanting to bring you over, but there are certain restrictions that the government has for different countries. So predominantly we found that bringing people to our Melbourne studio is much easier. It's a quicker process. It's not as convoluted as the American system right now. So, we've had visa applications turn around in 2 weeks, and some have taken like 8 months, and we really can't, determine why these things happen, apart from the fact that, we have a great lawyer that works on our applications, and they make sure that, all the documents are provided, and, there's a genuine interest for that position and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we do help out from start to finish. It's just we can't really give you an exact timeline.
Sure. Yep.
About when you can come down.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're nearing the end of our time. It's gone so quickly.
Yeah, it
Thanks
has.
for coming on.
Yeah.
What would you say about THU? Would you recommend people obviously try and come? And
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I was trying to convince Andre to come down and do a one in Australia, but he said
Oh,
it's
yeah.
too far. So
No, it's not too far. Andre,
I think,
you're coming.
I think he should really think about doing a few around the world. It has been such an amazing experience. The
Yeah.
people have been wonderful, and it's just been really eye-opening for the talent. And yeah, we've had a really good time. We want to come back, so
That's right.
hopefully they'll have us back next year.
You're doing a cool thing today as well, aren't you? Which is going to check out Lisbon.
Yeah.
I've been here 3 years in a row and I've never been to Lisbon, really,
It's our
except
one day
landing in
off.
the plane.
Yeah, it's our one day off, so we
Yeah.
really wanted to go and explore the city and just kind of make sure that we had a little bit of a break. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I need to check out that city.
You
sort of
should.
see it when you fly in and when you
And then
drive
when you fly
away.
out, yeah, I think definitely next year we'll tap on another week just to explore.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a commitment.
Yeah, that is a commitment. Just got to let our CEO know. So yeah.
Also, just quickly mention the website Luma, where people can check you
Yeah,
guys
it's
out.
www.lumapictures.com, and same with all of our kind of social media. You just type in Luma and you'll find us.
The only other thing I was going to say is what's really cool is your studio setting. It's really funky. There's pictures on the website and things to look at, which are really cool.
Yeah, we're located in a really cool part of Santa Monica and in South Melbourne, very central to everything. So, we like to think that our studio is a pretty nice place to work at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for joining me, Jamie.
Thank you.
Cheers.